Anthrax are pioneers, trailblazers, and also reportedly finishing a new album, set for release later in 2025. But things internally between this band have forever been the furthest thing from smooth. 22 different members have officially appeared in the group since their formation in 1981, and that's not even including the number of touring musicians who filled in and helped along the way. Guitarist Scott Ian and drummer Charlie Benante are the only two members to have credits on all Anthrax releases. The rest gets insanely tricky. The band formed out of Queens in New York City, initially consisting of Scott Ian and Dan Wilker on guitar, and drummer Dave Weiss on the drums. Shortly after, John Connolly joined on vocals, and Paul Kahn joined on the bass. Just a few months in and the band would already change. As the music was evolving, band members were coming and going basically on a monthly basis. Not long in, Connolly was already being replaced on vocals by Dirk Kennedy, and then Tommy Wise. Then Scott Ian brought on his brother Jason Rosenfeld to sing for a little. It really wasn't until 1983 that Anthrax had any sort of semblance of a regular lineup, which by then featured Ian on rhythm guitar, Wilker on bass, Neil Turbin as lead vocalist, Charlie Benante on drums, and lead guitarist Dan Spitz. In January of 1984, Anthrax signed on with Megaforce Records and released their debut album, Fistful of Metal. However, of course, tensions rose shortly after its release when Neil Turbin kicked Dan Wilker out of the band, without even telling any of the bandmates at all that he was going to do this. This decision just marked the beginning of even further turmoil. So Wilker was then replaced by Frank Bello, who was also Charlie Benante's nephew. As the band toured throughout 1984, the friction between Turbin and the rest of the group escalated, leading to his departure in August of that year. Matt Fallon then stepped in to fill in the vocal role, until he was kicked out, and then Joey Belladonna stepped in. Belladona's tenure with Anthrax saw a ton of success, and was marked by the release of 4 studio albums. However, in 1992, he was let go, and the band wanted to explore a new musical direction. Now enter John Bush, ready to take over as Anthrax's new frontman. A few years later in 1995, beloved guitarist Dan Spitz left from the band, interestingly enough to become a professional watchmaker. In the midst of recording a new album, Anthrax needed some help. Stomp 442 that year saw contributions from Ian, Benante, former Meatloaf guitarist Paul Crook, and Pantera's Dimebag Darrell. Crook would actually go on to tour with Anthrax for several years after, until being replaced in 2001 by Rob Caggiano, formerly of the band Boiler Room. But of course it didn't stop there. Frank Bello then said he was stepping away later in 2004 to go join the band Helmet, and Joey Vera then stepped into his place to play bass for the band. So fast forward now to September of 2005, and a very significant announcement was made. Spitz, Bello, and Joey Belladonna were all reuniting with Anthrax to complete the classic lineup tour. This got a ton of fans excited that possibly there was going to be some new music and new recordings. That didn't happen. But the tour did culminate in a live album called The Live 2. But of course, by January of 2007, Anthrax and the new tour were already again facing more issues, and Joey Belladonna said he didn't want to do it anymore. By the end of 2007, Anthrax now welcomed Dan Nelson as their new lead singer. And they also brought back Rob Caggiano. In Anthrax fashion, however, Nelson's tenure was short-lived, and he left in July of 2009. John Bush now stepped in again to sing for Anthrax. Jump now a little further to 2010, and we have another stunning development. Joey Belladonna wants to make a triumphant return back to Anthrax, and play with Anthrax in the iconic Big 4 show. A couple years later, Rob Caggiano would quit again, and the band needed another new lead guitar player. Now enter John Dene from the band Shadows Fall, and he joined to make his mark. Anthrax will release 11th studio album For All Kings, with Dene on lead guitar in 2016, but since then, no new studio albums have come out. While one could argue that Anthrax's success through their ever-changing journey is a testament to the band's resilience and adaptability, it's hard not to wonder what a little stability could have done for this group during their history. Fans certainly hope a 12th studio album will be released this year, but is it even the same band if it's constantly different guys playing on it every single album? Lack of commitment, structural instability, that is why Anthrax sucks as bandmates.